You just won $1 million. It is in your account right now. Your phone is blowing up. Your relatives you have not heard from in 4 years are suddenly very interested in how you are doing and whether you have eaten today. You are sitting there thinking about the house, the car, the vacation, quitting your job in the most dramatic way possible. Maybe a speech, maybe just a letter. Maybe you just stop showing up and let them figure it out. You are thinking this is the moment everything changes. And you are right. Everything is about to change, just not in the way you think. Because there is an enormous amount of data on what actually happens to people after a sudden windfall of money. And the results are so consistently surprising that economists, psychologists, and neuroscientists have been studying it for decades, trying to understand why human beings are so spectacularly bad at handling the one thing they spend their entire lives saying they want. The moment you find out you have $1 million, your brain does something that feels amazing, but is actually the beginning of the problem. It releases a massive flood of dopamine, the same chemical behind excitement, motivation, and the reason you cannot stop watching one more episode at midnight, even though you have work in 6 hours. And dopamine does something very specific. It makes the future feel more real than it actually is. Every good thing you imagine feels guaranteed. Every plan feels brilliant. Every idea feels like the obvious correct decision. This is the worst possible mental state for making financial decisions, because $1 million sounds like an infinite amount of money until you start spending it like a person whose brain is currently swimming in dopamine and has temporarily forgotten how subtraction works. $1 million after tax in most countries lands around 600,000, split across a house deposit, a car, some travel, a few generous moments with people you love, and suddenly, your infinite money has an end date. And it comes faster than anyone ever expects. Studies on sudden wealth are genuinely one of the most depressing bodies of research in all of economics, and not for the reasons you would expect. The problem is not that people buy stupid things. Well, it is partly that. But the deeper problem is social. The moment people around you know you have money, every relationship in your life quietly changes. Friends start keeping score in ways they never did before. Family members appear with emergencies that somehow always have a dollar figure attached. People who never asked you for anything suddenly have very reasonable and very urgent requests. And here is the cruel part. Most sudden millionaires report feeling like they cannot say no, because the money feels unearned. It came from luck, and the guilt of saying no to someone who is struggling when you are sitting on $1 million is a psychological weight that most people dramatically underestimate before it lands on them. Within 5 years, a significant percentage of lottery winners report being worse off financially than before they won. Some of them go completely broke. There is a concept in psychology called mental accounting, and it explains almost everything about why sudden money disappears faster than earned money. When you work for money, your brain tags it. It knows exactly what that money cost in time, effort, and sacrifice. Spending it feels like spending something real, something that came from you. When money arrives suddenly, lottery, inheritance, unexpected windfall, your brain never assigns it the same weight. It feels different, almost abstract, like it appeared from nowhere and could appear again. So people spend sudden money faster, more carelessly, and with significantly less guilt than money they worked for. Not because they are irresponsible people, because their brain is genuinely processing the two types of money differently at a neurological level. Add to that something called lifestyle inflation, where every spending level you reach immediately starts to feel normal, and the level below it starts to feel like deprivation. And you have a perfect system for turning $1 million into nothing while somehow feeling like you were being reasonable the entire time. The million felt like the finish line. It was actually the starting gun on a completely new set of problems. So what does the research actually say you should do if you suddenly come into serious money? The single most consistent finding across financial psychology studies is this: do nothing first. Not a week, not a month. Researchers and financial therapists who work with sudden wealth consistently recommend doing absolutely nothing significant with the money for a minimum of 6 months. No big purchases, no grand announcements, no generous gestures. Just let the dopamine settle and let your brain return to a state where it can actually evaluate decisions properly. The second finding is that the happiest outcomes come from people who use the money to buy time and security rather than things. Paying off debt, building a buffer that means a bad month at work no longer feels like a crisis. Those changes are quiet. They are invisible to everyone around you. But the research consistently shows they produce longer-lasting improvements in well-being than any purchase you could make. A new car feels incredible for about 3 months. Never worrying about your rent again feels incredible for the rest of your life. The third finding is tell as few people as possible, immediately, before the dopamine convinces you that sharing the news is a good idea. It is not. Your long-lost relatives already have enough personality. They do not need a financial reason to call you.